welcome to episode 170 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 69 of Zap 64, which we are, of course, no way affiliated with, and were educated by Emlyn Hughes' arcade quiz, challenged by Chip's Challenge, and sauntered a bit through The Spy Who Loved Me. This week, we conclude our look at the games in January 1991, along with what was lighting up our cinema screens that month. Graham, did this week's games make you smile with delight or frown like Calibos?
It's the last part of January 1991. Christmas is now over 300 days away. Last year seems like ages ago, and there are more C64 budget reissues than ever. So in a month that also saw Australia become the first Commonwealth country to be allowed to institute its own Victoria Cross medals, we grab our body warmers, or gilets if you're not from the UK, pop on our motorbike helmets, grab our police-issued rocket launchers and machine guns, and head out on the streets to smash the drugs and drug gangs of Mr. Big in the C64 arcade conversion of Narc. And then we shrink ourselves down to the literal size of a baby arachnid, hunch our necks, and go for a slow walk and possibly crawl around some empty film sets looking for light switches in the Amazing Spiderman. Two very opposing ways of dealing with crime and villainy. One is to blow everything up and kill everyone in as loud and violent a manner as possible. The other is to walk around in near silence and annoy them through the inconvenience of a potentially higher electricity bill. Certainly more covert. Anyway, while we wonder who changes all the light bulbs in a supervillain's lair, we head off to 8-bit Daytona and attempt to drive a badly coloured shoe around a poorly rendered track in the utterly terrible Days of Thunder before finally getting our full egg on, raising our excitement, getting extremely aggressive, and there's more, and tumbling around another Spectrum to C64 game in the game of eggs that everyone apparently loves, Magicland Dizzy. January begun. What a stinker it was. Never mind the Dizzy game that month had a right load of dog eggs in it. More than usual? Well, I hope this isn't a sign of eggy things to come, that's for sure. For Calibos, I think.
Even Calibos would be super frown, in extra frown.
There was a somewhat dissatisfactory experience in the latter part of 1991, it seems, in January.
Yeah.
What happened? We'll find out, but goodness me. Wow. Okay.
I mean, 4 games. Surely the quality can't be that bad.
Yeah, there is 4 games. I'll give you that.
There are 4 games. There are 4 candles. There are 4 candles. And obviously, we'll be sort of rounding out the month and just giving a thing moving on. So, yeah, it's the end of January 1991. I don't know if this is a sign of things to come, really, of what to expect from the rest of 1991. Who knows?
I hope not.
I hope not. It's going to be a very, very long year. If it is, but I don't have much to say. I'm going to get the normal stuff out of the way up here at the front. Mm-hmm. So if you wish to support the podcast, you can do that. If you want to do that, you can support us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/Zap to the Past. And you can go there, and that's cool if you want to do that. Sign up for clearly less than the price of a sandwich probably these days. Probably less than the price of 12 eggs at this rate. So yeah, you can do that. You can get access to our Discord. Come and join us and have a chat on there. You can get the episodes early and advert free and join in on all our sort of extra stuff we kind of do. So that's the podcast and end of year stuff. And generally just get the enormous sense of well-being and park life of just supporting a podcast that you like. So that'd be all cool. And that's all good. You can support us on Ko-fi as well. That's ko-fi.zap to the past.
Yeah,
and Graham, we've had a rather large payment from someone on Ko-fi this week. So from Hooju Papa.
Sounds awesome. Thank you, Hooju Papa.
Absolutely. He says, the memories, the nostalgia, the rampant bias. They said, love your content. Love Elite 2. So he's off to go back to Lave, to Dizzo, to Lave.
Lave to the Dizzo. Lave to the Dizzo.
I wished him well and hopes he doesn't crash on the way into the space station.
Maybe he'll trade coffee on his Lave to the Dizzo trade route. Oh, the excitement of trade routes. Is there anything more exciting than 3D vector trade routes? I don't know if there is.
I don't know. I reckon that's what they were discussing in the first Star Wars film, Phantom Menace. All that trade route nonsense.
Trade negotiation.
Boring.
I must confess, I must speak to the Lave delegate on his current pricing of the coffee, while I would argue with my Dizzo friend.
Yeah. Anyway, but Hooju Papa Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. We will enjoy a drink or two at Christmas with that.
We will.
But no. Actually, what I mean is we'll put it towards the running of the show cost.
Exactly that, which is technically the same thing.
yeah, because we've already paid for it, so whatever. But thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. Everybody who contributes we love you. We love you very much.
We do.
And obviously, just follow us on the socials as well. I hate the term the socials, and I can't believe I just said it.
And it sounds like a band from the mid-90s as well.
It does. Yeah, there'd be a Thomas
the Tank Engine.
Oh.
There would be a bit of that, wouldn't there? A bit of suede in there.
Yeah, that's what it'd be, the socials. Anyway, enough of this. Enough of that. Should we get on to some games? We've got 4 to get through, Graham, and let's get through them we must.
Oh, we will.
Let's get on to our first game. And our first one, it's not the Narc, man.
Oh, no, the Narc, man.
Oh, no, the Narc, man. Let's go.
Let's go.
It is indeed Narc. Supposedly, Graham, no one had the guts until now. That's what the tagline for this game would have us believe. But had the guts to do what is never quite clear.
No,
make the game. Convert it to the C64, maybe. Try and check down Mr. Big, who knows? Anyway, this is Narc, another game from Ocean and a conversion of the Williams Electronics original arcade game. The original arcade game was designed by the legendary Eugene Jarvis.
Eugene Jarvis.
I can't imagine Eugene Jarvis in that scene in the Pink Panther. Everybody, Eugene Jarvis. I would say, though, that I'm just going to segue off. Designed. Design seems like a bit of a strong word in the case of Narc.
Yeah, it's designed. Someone designed it.
Okay, right. Yeah, right. Fair enough. This was £10.99. So it's gone up to that. It's got a premium conversion price, and it got 86%. The C64 version was produced by the Sales Curve, coded by Simon Pick. He did Nemesis, Shinobi. He did those. Micro Rhythm, Mad Nurse, things like that. Yeah. And it was also coded by Steve Snake. Tell me he's a lead singer in a rock band.
Yeah, the Socials.
So, yeah, absolutely. But he did a game called Impact way back in 1988, which we did. Yeah. It's a breakout thing. We did look at it.
I remember that.
The graphics here by Ned Langman. He worked on Shinobi and a load of others, Robert Whittaker and Shane McClure, and the music is by Paul Tong. And finally, the cover was by Mr. Bob Wakelin.
Good old Bob.
Narc itself, just a little bit of background, was one of the first wave of, this is from the wiki, classed as one of the first wave of ultra-violent video games, according to the wiki, and was often a target for parental criticism. This was the first wave of those kind of, before the Senate debates with things like Doom and Mortal Kombat and Narc. Yeah. These were the games that came in. The game is the first arcade game to use, according to wiki, the Texas Instruments TMS 34010.
That's true.
A 32-bit processor with graphics-oriented instructions built in. It was later used in Smash TV, Mortal Kombat, and NBA Jam. And the game itself was converted to most machines at the time, including the Amiga, the ST, Amstrad Spectrum, NES, and the C64. Okay, so what is Narc? What is Narc? And according to the back of the box, because there's no real story given in the manual.
Why would you do something like that?
Yeah, why would you do something? It's all on the back of the box. So I'll read the back of the box. The arcade action thriller with the big finish. Infiltrate the criminal underworld. Big's in capital letters. If I shout, it's because it's in capital letters. Your mission is to seek out and destroy the kingpin of the Mr. Big Corporation. If you get that far, you'll have to outwit his enormous army of bodyguards, gangs of charisma bypass patients in trench coats, the bullet brain with the build of a rhinoceros and the breath of a dung beetle, packs of vicious canine yappies.
What?
The psychotic clown. I'm just reading. The psychotic clown with an evil sense of humour. You'll die, but not laughing. Then there's the gas guzzling Cadillac jock, a cool specimen, elbow hanging on the door tail, a serious looking piece in his hand, who misses, and ready to blow you away as he rolls down Main Street, leaving you coughing lead. It's not all bad. You've got a chopper to back you up, a mean, shiny street machine, some heavy metal hardware, and some pretty neat moves. And what about the kingpin? Did I say he was Mr. Big? No, he's Mr. Big.
Well, there's a lot of innuendo in these. Who wrote these?
I did. They got me in. Said, oh, yeah, can you write the back of the Narc box? Oh, yes, I can. Okay. That's the back of the box. What all that means?
It means nothing. It means that they didn't know what it was about.
It means it's just a load of stuff that they wrote because Narc has no story.
No, they've just described the first 2 levels in the best way they could without actually seeing what the game was about.
Yeah, the game's got a decent loading screen, I guess, to your 2 characters, who by the way are called Max Force and Hitman.
They are, yeah.
Hitman and Max Force. That was the first name of the show on ITV.
Can you imagine on his application form? H-Man. What's the H stand for? Hit. You're in. Don't even waste your time filling in the rest of that. You don't need to.
M Force. What's the M stand for? Max. Okay. The other 2 guys we need. I think they're standing in front of what looks like Porsche 911. It looks like a
Something
Porsche.
like that, maybe, yeah.
And it's got a bloody logo across the top. It's from the arcade. Yes, and
it is,
the 6 targets of the game down the 2 sides of the screen. It's a good representation of the arcade.
Yeah.
And that is something to keep in mind for most of this review. Okay.
Yeah.
Once that is done, the game starts. We get a version of the intro to the level of the arcade game, because in the arcade game you kind of tap out on a keyboard type thing and you get these kind of screens and you get a bit of speech and it's like, hey, this is your mission, go do this, and you get a bit of text and speech and it's so the first one we got to go for is some gang or the Doff gang, and they get this guy in a Mac and, oh no, it's the Narc, man.
Oh no, the Narc, man.
Let's go.
Let's go. So we get a version of that because it's lacking the speech of the arcade. It does have the digitized image of them though. It kind of fades out in the same manner. That's quite nice. If we don't actually press fire after this, it kind of cuts to the opening level with music and a scrolling message with the name of the game and credits over it. So it's just a bit weird. It's a bit odd. It's a little bit, the weird layout of this is really odd. It's like back to front. So the game itself, Narc, it's a 2-player left to right walk and gun with the same type of 3D depth that you'd normally see in a standard belt scroller. So your Renegades, your Double Dragons, your Final Fights, all that kind of thing, just with all the combat taken out to replace by shooting as many people as possible. Yeah. That's kind of it. The top quarter of the screen is taken up with the UI, and here you've got the info for both player 1 and 2, because, as I said, they've kept most things from the arcade, and that includes the 2-player mode. So you can play this in 2-player mode, and we've not seen that in a lot of recent ports. Not even Midnight Resistance kept the 2-player mode. No. So it's nice to see that here. The UI shows each player the number of bullets they have left, and rockets, if they've got any of those left. I think it's any bags of drugs they've picked up.
Yeah, that's right.
As well. And money as well, which gives bonuses when you reach certain parts of the game. Next to this, another box is your energy bar, which is whittled down as you take hits, and the number of lives represented by a couple of crash helmets. Controls are simple enough, but with some awkwardness to try and cram in all the arcade moves. So the 4 directions move you about the screen, allow you to fire both left and right. So you can walk, and if you move left, you'll face left. You move right, you'll face to the right. You'll shoot in whichever direction you're facing, and you do that by spamming the fire button. You do have to spam it. If you hold down the fire button for a brief moment, then you'll let loose a rocket. There is also jump and crouch in the arcade game, and they've managed to fit them in here, albeit very awkwardly. You have to press fire and then press up quickly. That does a jump, okay?
A bit strange.
It's a bit of an odd one, but to do a crouch, you have to... I found the only way I could do it was to press up and then press the down cursor key on the keyboard. Which is one of the most awkwardly counterintuitive moves I've ever had to do. In the instructions, it just says up and down cursor keys, but that didn't work. So why not just down? Why not just spacebar? Why not? But it's 2 players, so you've got different. You've both got to press keys. Yeah. It's really awkward. So player 1 or player 2 basically presses something like the other side of the keyboard. It's an odd system. I don't know.
It's a bit.
Oh, it's extremely awkward. I don't know. Anyway, the aim of the game, go right and blow up, shoot, or bust any enemies that come towards you. Yep. And there are a lot of them. I'll give it credit. There's a lot of enemies to kill. To bust them, so shooting just shoots them. If you want to bust them, you need to walk up to them, and you basically stay stood next to them or over them for a couple of seconds, and then they get whisked away to Heavenly Jail or something. I don't know where they go. You go, woo, off to the side, upwards. Like,
float off.
It's like, oh, that's nice. I wish that should really happen in America or anywhere. When anyone gets arrested, they should just be whisked away. It reminded me of the Fulton. You've never played Metal Gear Solid 5, have you?
No, I have not.
You can Fulton non-play characters in that, so you can whisk up behind them, and you attach like what is essentially a balloon, and so you hit it to them, they turn around and go, and then they go up. It's very funny, and it takes them back to your own home base. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. The 2 characters are dressed the same, either in red or blue though, and you've got a crash helmet on at all times to protect their anonymity, I guess.
Yes.
There are 12, I would say, relatively short levels to make your way through.
They are short.
So I'll just go through them. There's the streets, then you're into the subway, then you back up onto the streets again, and this is where you take out the Das Loaf gang. Not the Narc, man!
Oh no, the Narc, man!
Which will lead to the second villain, Spike Rush, who's a drug maker. He'll throw syringes at you. In the arcade, these are dead fast. In the C64, slow syringes.
Yeah, they are quite slow.
They're dead easy to avoid. They're like, it's like, just walk around them, thanks. The first couple of 3 levels are quite tough, but you can make it through them. The levels 4 and 5 were just like, there's no the challenge has disappeared.
Yeah.
Then you go through them, make it through some different streets. You also get buzzed by a helicopter at this point as well.
You do.
Then you make it down into a drug lab, take down Spike Rush. Next up is Joe Rockhead. He's a PCP addict who's on a bridge, which you've got to cross. Here you get the ability to jump into that said Porsche 911, I think, drive them for a bit, shooting backwards and forwards. If you take down Joe, you move on to Kinky Pinky.
Good old Kinky Pinky.
Kinky Pinky. Yeah. A crazy clown type was a penchant for kidnapping the escorts in the street, prostitutes. In the red light district, you move through at this point. It just takes them down into the ground. It's like it.
Don't want to know what he's doing with them.
No, but you can tell it's the red light district because it's full of adult video stores and shops promising hot sex.
It's a bit dodgy. It's
really dodgy. It's like, oh god, okay. There are 5 exits from this level. One is locked, and you need to find the silver safe card. It's in one of the 4 sub levels: the kennels, Kinky's big top, the swamp, and the scrap heap. What city is this?
Not a good one.
Get the card. You move on to outside the nursery. It's like, what can we do to annoy Middle America?
Yeah.
Where Sky High grows his drugs. and then down into his lair to collect the illegal drug plants before heading back to the streets to fight the HQ posse and get into Mr. Big's building. And a final level to get to Mr. Big, who's a huge head in a wheelchair, breathes fire at you before turning into a floating skull when you do enough damage and spits lips at you.
He does.
What is this game?
Little bit crazy.
It's just really weird. Kill him, you get to collect some gold in a bonus level before being told you've completed your training and to contact your local DEA office. Weird.
Same as the arcade.
Yeah. So this is the second game this month, overtly about the war on drugs. It's about subtle as a brick. And so we had Snow Strike. It includes the famous phrase, winners don't use drugs, which was a program introduced by FBI Director William S. Sessions in 1989. And it's as simple as they come. You walk around, shoot and blow anything up that is linked to the drug trade with no concern for due process. Right? You just...
Or any process. It's just,
you just kill
everything up. Kill everything.
The busting and arresting them seems at odds with the tone of the game. It's like... It's weird. So I played the cart version of this. Mainly, I did give the disc version a go because it's a big multi-load disc. But the disc version was okay in that regard. So I didn't have too much trouble. But if you play the cart version, it's pretty much instantaneous. And I'll give them credit in that just about everything, bar some presentation aspects around the edges, have been crammed into this port. All the levels and enemies, things you can do, it's all here, including the 2-player mode. The visuals in the arcade had that kind of distinct digitized look to them, didn't they?
They were the first game to use that technique.
Yeah. And they had a very, very distinct look to it, which, of course, that can't be replicated here. But I think, they do a decent job in trying to do that to various levels of success. But, I'll give them credit. There's a lot of enemies and elements on screen at times. And I did read somewhere that it says in the Zapped review that they've kept everything in. I read somewhere you've even got the bit when you fire a bomb at them, bits of limbs go flying everywhere and stuff like that. So all that's here. All that's here. Okay. It does come at a cost, because there is some slowdown at times. This affects the music and everything. Guess it's something to be expected when there's this many sprites moving about. There's a lot going on. Okay. It doesn't happen all the time, and the scrolling is pretty smooth, and you can shoot and blow up people pretty smoothly. Most of the time, it's fine. You can play this fine. So in those respects, this is a decent port of the arcade game. They've actually crammed Narc into the C64, and it's recognisably Narc. The problem is I never liked Narc. So your mileage for this game is going to be how much you like Narc. I never liked it. I like it even less now. And this is a worse version of that. And it's got exactly the same problem. It's boring. For all that excess, it's really boring. It's for all the explosions and gore and seediness, the rote gameplay, there's nothing to do. You just walk right and shoot. It's fundamentally dull. I don't know, there's something really boring. It's too much of the same thing constantly. It always was for me and still is. I don't find little enjoyment to be had here after the first level or so. And yes, you can get in a car. The characters are all very silly, but the slog of just walking along and shooting stuff, trying to avoid the endless waves of drugged up enemies, it's just ultimately no fun, at least for me. I mean, I get it. Some people really do like Narc. It got 80%. And, not every arcade game is as good as everything else. I admire the technical chops on display here. They've competently produced a C64 version of Narc. It's very recognizable, contains all the elements of the arcade. Therein lies the issue. This is the worst, I think, of Eugene Jarvis's games from his golden period. I like everything else he did around, but not particularly this. And I think it's also aged really badly. What seemed edgy and made parents, grasp their cheeks in horror and clutch their pearls, it's just now a bit cringeworthy. So I think it doesn't really stand up in today's. People will enjoy it because it's mindless. It's absolutely mindless on a level that, that was clearly, it was aimed at a specific target market.
Oh yeah,
teenage boys, and not the Narc man, and sticking the finger up to the establishment. It's entirely that. But you play the establishment, and you're taking down the drug. So it's that weird kind of I'm not quite sure. It's got this weird kind of sort of pulling in both directions. What you do and what it's about, which is weird. I just don't think it's much fun to play though, especially not anymore. So for me, Narc, it's more like just simply nah.
Fair enough.
And that was that's me. But not knocking the technical thing, because I've done a good job in actually porting the game over. I just never liked the original, so that was me. What about you?
Well, conversely, it's one of my favourite arcade games. And it's one of my favourite arcade games for a number of reasons. Firstly, I love the fact that it's shamelessly 80s. It's like a living RoboCop. It's just the RoboCop of video games. It's shamelessly about what it is. It's just completely uncompromising stupidity. And I admire that commitment to stupidity. If you could combine some of my favourite things about arcade games, stupid and violence, this is kind of the perfect match.
Then Narc is it.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, this is a late 80s arcade, doesn't it? It featured some really interesting things. Obviously, Eugene Jarvis is an interesting character anyway. He had actually come up with the idea for Narc way earlier than it came out in actuality, because they didn't have the technology he wanted to make this game the way he wanted to make it. So this game came to be because of, principally, it was just... when the technology became available for them to be able to basically video or record the animation and do what is essentially what we call now motion capture, but back then it was what the precursor to Mortal Kombat and all of those games. This is where that began. That technique began.
Yeah.
So this is a guy in really flared pants with paint down in the middle of his legs in stripes, working on a running machine to create the working cycle for those guys.
Yeah.
But all that said, Narc is what it is. And now the two things that really attracted me to Narc is, one, it's so fucking loud in the arcade. It's like the loudest game ever. It's impossible for Narc to be quiet. As soon as you put any press your one player or put your money in, wow, 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 it's that big, loud, booming sound, and it's, oh no, the Narc man. Miss out, that's it, you're in. And I like that about it. So that's a lot to capture, and all that is arcade fire, and that's what I love about the arcade. Now, the C64 version. Now, actually, before I say the C64 version, I actually first encountered the home versions by the Amiga version for this, and I was absolutely let down. The Amiga version is, and it's actually odd. Now I look back, I think it's because I had such high expectations, thinking it would be exactly like it on the Amiga. But it's like when you play Golden Axe on the Amiga, you're like, oh, there's something not right about that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I've mellowed in all this time and played Narc a million times to completion in the arcade clubs over the years and whatnot. So, like you said, and rightly so, you like the arcade or you don't. It is just an old-fashioned walk and shoot and blast. It's a shoot 'em up, really, even been dressed in fancy trousers, but it is exactly that, and stupid. So the C64 version, then, at least it's recognisable as Narc. And I actually was hating on it a bit after playing the demo, and I wasn't sure about it.
Shooting from your feet was a bit weird.
What they've tried to do is what they could, and in actuality, you've got two players in there. You've got most of the arcade. It captures the stupidity, which is fine by me. The graphics vary from okay to completely stupidly blocky when you get to the car, but okay, whatever. You're cramming a lot of stuff in there. The controls are what let this down for me, actually, because they could have made that way simpler than they did. And it makes it, when the dogs attack you, it's stupidly annoying, because, of course, when the dogs attack you in the game, for reasons that are known only to the people that made this, they just, when you shoot them, they just turn into puppies, as opposed to everything else, which explodes in a shower of blood. Be under no underestimation, Narc is a violent video game in the arcade. It is a bloodbath. There's body parts and all sorts of stuff. And they're basically dressed like the guy out of the film The Exterminator as well, the cops. So you know it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, the controls let this down. I mean, the levels are oddly short. They're shorter than the arcade. And I found this game easy, but I played Narc a lot. And I mean, like, lots. So I made this all the way through to the end boss on one go, my first go. It was actually quite easy. But that said, I had no real issues with it. But that is because if you've played the arcade, and I've played it quite a lot on MAME as well, the patterns and the way you move around, actually, they've mirrored that pretty well. And there's just less enemies, and the less enemies don't do as much damage and all that stuff. So you can get through this. But in the context of things, it's still pretty fun. Graphics are bitty. They do like that definition. It's on an 8-bit machine. And I suppose the graphics on some of the blocky things, the helicopter looks all right, though, and the background details are principally the same as the arcade. They're not far off. The actual arcade is quite sparse in terms of what's in it. It's not like a Final Fight or one that's got that kind of level of pixel painting and enrichment like that. It's actually a pretty empty game other than all the bloodbath going on. Mm-hmm. I thought the music was pretty good, apart from when it slowed down a bit, but it was loud and brash, and that kind of captures it. Missing some of the sound effects there, wasn't it, really? And it's the sound effects that kind of make Narc. The little audio samples, the little, you're busted.
You're busted. Fred 'em. Police.
The little Robocop style vocals, the screams of the clown, the things when he blows up, and you're missing some of that, really. But I thought it was all right. $10.99, all right. It's the price of a full price game. For a license, it's going to be that. 86% is probably about right for it, though. It's not going to win any major awards, but it was all right for a blast, I suppose. It was an okay version. Nothing more, nothing less. So there you go.
Yeah. Your enjoyment of this is going to, I think, between the pair of us, like whether you like the original arcade.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to
because there's nothing. This is a good 8-bit C64 conversion of the arcade. It's not, It's perfectly playable. It's perfectly doable. Like you said, you walked all the way through to the end. It's perfectly doable, and there's no problem with it. It's just whether you like Narc. It was never one of like I said, never particularly one of my.
No, your mileage varies on that.
Yeah, I played it at the time, and I was just like, a couple of goes, and I was like, I get what you're saying though about it's RoboCop, and they've just synthesized all that.
Yeah,
I just think that's my point where I said about the design. It just feels a bit too simple in the play.
I don't know. It's 1988, 89. It's kind of that time.
These other games were a bit more interesting.
Again, it's all down to the kind of games you like, isn't it? I mean, if you look in the context of the kind of walk and seek kind of games, this one sticks out because of its violence, but there's loads of them around that time. And later on down the line, this has got to be an influence on games like Crackdown on the consoles later down the line, with all the gangs and everything else, and
probably
all the crazy. So it's a little bit like that. So I think there's actually later versions of Narc on different consoles as well that probably came out.
There's about to be. I think there was a sequel in 2005 or something. I think, or maybe also maybe I'm reading something. Narked. They're just a bit angrier.
Yeah, you're exactly right though. If you like the original Narc, you like it. If you don't, well, you won't gonna. You're probably going to play Robotron or Defender or one of the other Eugene Jarvis games.
Yeah, exactly. Smash TV.
Yeah.
There you go. That's Narc. Not the Narc, man.
Let's go.
Indeed, let's go indeed into our last game. We've got another game this part. We've only got 4 this week, as I said, so we've got another one this part before we go for a break. And so let's go on to that. And Graham, it's all about you this time, telling us what it's like to be the Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay. So this is £9.99, £9, the old price. This was published by Paragon Software. It was developed by Oxford Digital Enterprises, which seems really at odds. They did RMS Titanic, Trivial Pursuit, and The Hunt for Red October. Well, one of them.
Weird.
The coder was James Smart. He did Back to the Future 2 and Wonder Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And the musician was Neil Crossley, who did Chip's Challenge. So there's a little bit of epic-ness about this. It's a bit weird where it lives. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So for the uninitiated, and because it's probably a good idea to set the scene a little, Spider-Man is one of the most iconic comic book characters, debuted in Amazing Fantasy number 15 in 1962, created by Stan Lee, of course, and Steve Ditko. He was unique for being a teenage hero with real-life struggles, a character that readers could relate to more personally. The concept was revolutionary at the time, as teenage superheroes were generally depicted as sidekicks rather than standalone characters with their own powers and storylines. Obviously, the character's origin story is well known. Peter Parker, a shy, intelligent high school student, is bitten by a radioactive spider, granting him spider-like abilities, including super strength, agility, and the ability to cling to walls. After gaining these powers, Peter initially uses them for personal gain, which is often lost in all of the various versions of Spider-Man, but he did that. However, after his Uncle Ben is murdered by a thief Peter could have stopped, he learns the famous lesson, with great power comes great responsibility. This drives him to become Spider-Man, New York's friendly neighborhood hero. And I think we can all look back and reflect on that. So that's the story of Spider-Man. I have to mention all that because it's important that we lay this groundwork for how heavy this character is in terms of weight. In summary, Spider-Man has been featured in hundreds of comics, over a dozen television shows, multiple film franchises, numerous novels, children's books, and a wide array of video games, which makes him a bit of a cultural icon. The first Spider-Man video game was released in 1982 for the Atari 2600, and it was simply called Spider-Man. That was developed by Parker Brothers. It's one of the earliest superhero games ever made, and thereby one of the first superhero games ever made. The most recent Spider-Man video game is Marvel's Spider-Man 2, released on the 20th of October 2023, exclusively for the PlayStation 5. That was developed by Insomniac Games, and this installment continues the adventures of both Peter Parker and Miles Morales as they face new challenges and adversaries in an expanded Marvel New York. So, between 1962 and 2023, there's continuously been Spider-Man related product coming out.
Yeah. I think as well, he was like the most wanted character to come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. And also, obviously, there's the 3 movies that Sam Raimi did, which I think are pretty good all the same, especially the second one. I really like that. But the third one, less so. And then there's the later ones. And the most recent iteration of Peter Parker is the one I actually like the most because he's the most teenage. So I quite like that about him. So what is this Spider-Man story about? Because there's lots of Spider-Man stories and lots of Spider-Man enemies, of course, isn't there? So in this one, the evil, and this is off the back of the box, the evil Mysterio, trademark, is a master of illusions and Hollywood special effects. When he lures Spider-Man, registered trademark, into a movie studio to rescue Mary Jane Parker, trademark, he has Spider-Man right where he wants him, exclamation mark. Spider-Man is fighting on Mysterio's turf. 6 movie sets packed with robots, electrified floors, doors that aren't really there. Okay, that's a gap.
Or an arch.
An arch. And walls coated with what, they're holes, yeah. And walls coated real fake doors. Real fake doors. Get your real fake doors right there. And walls coated with a chemical that keeps Spidey's webs from sticking. Okay. Grease, maybe. Mysterio has even turned gravity upside down and sideways in some of his scenes. Okay. Spider-Man needs your help to stay alive and to figure out the series of switches that turn Mysterio's tricks on and off. Your goal is to guide Spider-Man to the studio's executive suite where Mysterio is holding Mary Jane. And it says in its bullet points, there's always exciting bullet points on a Spider-Man comic, as you well know. Spidey walks, crawls, climbs walls and ceilings, shoots and swings from webs, and uses famous spider sense to avoid danger. Over 250 screens packed with action.
250?
Packed with action.
Packed with action, were they?
Real fake doors.
Just holes.
Strategy and surprises in every scene. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the back of the box. And the reason I read out the back of the box is because the instruction manual doesn't feature that story. I've got a copy of the instruction manual right here, and it doesn't tell you what the game's about. It seems like a bit odd.
Like Narc didn't.
With Narc, I suppose you could guess, maybe. Anyway, it says there is the sort of a how to play the Amazing Spider-Man instructions for the game. And it's only a paragraph, so. Each location of the Rockwell Film Studios, so you're in the Rockwell Film Studios in case you didn't realize, consists of walls, platforms, traps, switches, and adversaries. You will make significant progress only if you locate those switches which are necessary to proceed and if you avoid the traps. Your goal is to locate Mysterio's lair in the executive offices. To get there, you will make your way through many rooms, most of which are parts of film studio sets specially laid out by Mysterio to make your task of locating Mary Jane even harder. Switches initially affect only the action in your present room, but as you go further into the studio, some affect other rooms as well. Activating a switch can cause a platform, door, or surface to move, change, or disappear. At the start, switches will look quite obvious. Later on, however, some of the switches are invisible, so you need to keep your wits about you. Spider-Man can activate a switch by walking on top of it, walking past it, if it is an infrared switch, or firing a web directly at it. You will find webs very useful for switches, which are difficult for Spider-Man to reach. Traps include elevators, closing doors, electrified floors, and spikes. If Spider-Man gets caught in a trap, his health value will decrease. You will have to act quickly if you are to save him. Many traps are activated by switches, so keep a close lookout around you. And I'm not going to go into all the details of the types of surface, which is magnetic, slippy, or normal. And there's various robots that have been created, and webs and gravity, and how there's all different layouts, and blah, 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 blah. As usual with these games, it features the sort of weird character bios at the back of the instructions. So this time, Spider-Man, height 5'10", weight 165 pounds, eyes hazel. You never see his eyes. He's frigging Spider-Man. And it says his hair is brown. And it's got Mysterio, height 5'11", weight, 175 pounds, eyes blue, hair black.
Why is he giving us this information about Mysterio when clearly the thing about Mysterio is he's mysterious? We don't want to know anything about him.
I don't understand. It says, after a brief prison term, Mysterio was paroled and renewed his illegal activities. Okay, he's obviously somehow fluffed his parole. Mysterio is a skilled amateur chemist, hypnotist, and magician. He manipulates his victims' senses so they doubt their own perceptions. Now, and you know what? It's just silly. By the way, in case you wondered, Mary Jane Watson Parker is 5'8". She's got green eyes. She weighs 120 pounds and she's got red hair.
She has.
But every time we've had a little Marvel game, they have that at the back. Now, that's all the instructions there are because the rest of it's all just in the multiple languages of, language. The reason I go through all of that detail is because, well, we get to the game. And in actuality, I played the cartridge version. There was a disc version. I also played that disc version. Had quite a slow loader on it as well, which is a bit frustrating. Anyway, I played the cartridge version to expedite matters. And the loading screen, came up. Half reasonable render of a Spider-Man image, climbing. It looked pretty good, yeah. And then the game instantly starts. Like, game start. Like, okay. Yeah. So the game just began. I was like, okay. And that was what I was presented with baffled me a little. In the context of what you see, a giant Spider-Man statue on the right-hand side. So Spider-Man is just stood on the right-hand side of the view.
I guess, yeah.
At the top of the screen is the score, the location of where you are, or the room that you are in, the name of the room, and your energy bar at the top of what looks like a stripy sort of effect. And then the mainstay of the game outside of that is where the action, quote unquote, takes place. When you first start the game, Spider-Man appears on the left-hand side. You might miss him because he's a tiny little sprite, tiny little thing he is. One sprite, it's a little tiny sprite. He's got a hunchback. He's a hunchback Spider-Man. That kind of upset me. I don't know who drew Spider-Man or why they drew him like that, but he's clearly drawn with he's obviously dropped something on his neck and it obviously injured him. So the idea then of the game is to explore the various levels and climb up the walls of the different levels, find the switches, trigger the switches, avoid the robots, and do that. Now, considering this is a Spider-Man game, he is agile. He can climb walls. He just does everything so slowly. So you start moving, you control Spider-Man with the joystick, so left and right, you push up to jump, and he does this kind of jump, and if you push him, just push up against walls, he'll climb up them and stuff like that. If you press fire and push in a direction, he will fire his web. It almost seems counterproductive to ever do that really in any particular places, but you can swing on the web and things like that if you want to do that. So the idea is you'll sort of walk around or crawl. It's at such a slow pace, it's neither here nor there. And you'll basically walk around and look for switches to trigger other switches and doorways and lifts. And that's kind of it, really. Yeah. In your way, there's kind of the odd robot here and there. And you can just freeze them to the spot with your web temporarily. And you'll sort of slowly strut by them and ooly-la-di-da. And it's just really weirdly pedestrian, oddly slow. Now, spiders, just in case you didn't know this, Agent, are impressively fast relative to their body size. Did you know that? An actual spider.
Oh, yeah.
For instance, many spiders can move at speeds up to 50 body lengths per second, even more when they're actually going for it, like sprinting. For a comparison, if a human could run at that speed relative to their body size, it would be the equivalent of running at 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
Not in this game. He ain't. I mean, I don't know what kind of spider he was bitten by, but not one of the fast ones. One of the real slow ones, like a tarantula, like a really heavy one. It had eaten a big bird or something.
So we got that.
So this is the Adventures of Hunchback Spider-Man, which, outside of being a great name for a band, is not something you ever thought of you want to play. The animation on the Spider-Man itself is okay, I guess, at the sprite level that it's at, but it's so minuscule, it's not really great animation because he moves so slowly. And I mean, this is slow. It kind of kills the pace. Now, what you then face is the prospect of wandering around all those hundreds of boring, empty rooms because the room designs are actually really boring. They're pretty much empty. And a classic example, there's one called the lift. Now, there's clearly a lift shaft that you have to climb, and there's a switch either side. And then so you go up, jump up, swing, fire your web, and then that triggers the switch. It'll come down, you go on the platform, and you go onto the next screen. And it's just really, really boring. Using your webs is laborious. You can fire your web directly up and climb straight upwards, but you can't then swing off that web. You can only swing off webs if you fire them at an angle, which is stupid.
Yep.
Now, I'm pretty sure Spider-Man can do more than that and should be able to do more than that. Why isn't this at the pace of a game like Bruce Lee? I don't know. Bruce Lee would have, if you just took Bruce Lee out and put Spider-Man in, you could have had a little Spider-Man game there against the Green Goblin, couldn't you, or something like that? Wouldn't it be far off what you had? Yeah. And what this is, it sort of almost pretends to be a little bit like that. So this is a lot of boring, empty space to kind of clamber around. There's some really odd moments in it as well. Like when he falls off things and he just sort of goes face first downwards, and then it's really odd. It's like he's going to Facebook the floor. He's like, hey! It's like, what? Yeah. Spider-Man doesn't normally do that.
Not really.
It's just, the whole thing is laborious and slow. So, and that's all there is to the game. You're going in and out of rooms, finding switches, avoiding things, and just walking around and climbing on walls. And periodically you can't climb on a wall. You think, oh, I must prime the switch for that. And that's it. That's all this is. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that this will appeal to mappers. The mappers out there will dig it. The puzzle platform lovers who are out there, they're going to really love it. Who it won't appeal to is Spider-Man fans, because they're going to hate it. No, I like Spider-Man, but I don't like this Spider-Man game. It's one of Spidey's more pedestrian adventures, like I said. Sees you wandering and climbing around slowly, looking for switches. Did anyone want Spider-Man to do that? No. Was there ever an adventure where Spider-Man went for a long wander through an underground base looking for the light switches or the switches for the lifts? It just seems like a massive underplay. I mean, in this mold of this type of game, you could get Mission Impossible and change the sprite to Spider-Man, and it would be a better Spider-Man game than this in the same vein. Because this owes a lot to Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
It's just like a really slow version of that, but without all the furniture. It's like the furniture's been removed from Mission Impossible, and Spider-Man's gone wandering looking for the light switches slowly. If you change the villain, and hey presto, you've got essentially this. Spider-Man moves weirdly and slowly, like I said, crawling all the time. Speed, the controls flip between walk and crawl, they're both slow. Maybe that appeals to the lovers of this kind of thing. I mean, if you want to explore a big map slowly in a Spider-Man suit, this is the game for you. And then if you do like doing that and you're not under constant attack, so maybe that it would appeal to people that like the adventure of exploring just and charting rooms and things. And maybe there's measure for that. I mean, big hits in that area are your Prince of Persias and your flashbacks. They're quiet games where you walk around and explore places.
Yeah.
There is a space for that. I mean, there's too much empty space in this one, but those kind of games can be successful. And I think this probably, if it owed anything to a number of games, it was probably a Prince of Persia style. That was out on the Apple II by this point. So there's a little bit of that kind of wandering around. No, not nearly as interesting or as exciting or well animated, I have to say, but a smaller sprite looking around this kind of thing. Maybe more Mission Impossible, I don't know anyway. The graphics are too tiny for me, even with the okay animation, just too slow. And really boring levels designed just with pipes and the odd robot here and there that look bored and as bored as you are in the game. It's just not very good. Spider-Man is a enduring, exciting Marvel character. Even in 1991, there's so much potential in a Spider-Man game. It makes me sick to think how stupid this game actually is. And yet there are people who like it. And I get that. But come on, talk about things for inspiration. I mean, even if I just list off the top of my head, Mission Impossible, Batman and Bionic Commando are all better variants of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just do one of them. You don't need to make it this expansive, boring, walk and seek, pedestrian, spider nothing. Rubbish. Near silent, slow jury Spider-Man game. That is not what I expected from anything with the words amazing and Spider-Man on it. A dreary waste of time. What about you?
Yeah, it feels like an old style game, even by 1991 standards.
Yeah, completely.
To me, it's nothing more than a Spider-Man version of things. I went back even further. Jet Set Willy.
Yeah, it's got that about it, hasn't it?
Or Castles of Dr. Creep.
Yeah, empty
that one?
of those things.
Yeah. Castle of the Creep is quite interesting, but Jet Set Willy's a classic, but this is just empty. Multitude of other flick screen button, and you're right to sort of name check things like Bruce Lee, Zorro, Conan.
Yeah,
all the Goonies, all those kind of small sprite, single screen,
Zorro,
flick things. But yeah, all them. We've looked at loads of them over the years. It also, in keeping with the theme that we've seen for this month, doesn't feel like a Spider-Man game.
No,
RoboCop want a RoboCop game. Spy Who Loved Me want a Spider. We want a James Bond game. This isn't a Spider-Man game. No. Okay, yeah, you have a web. You can spin a web and you can crawl on walls. But as you've rightly noted, Spider-Man is a creature of speed and swinging and moving through New York.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Not this laborious and slow exploration of empty rooms, climbing over furniture and falling on your head. That's a shit Spider-Man. That's just a shit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like, the controls are quite imprecise as well. I find myself crawling on the wrong wall, falling off, not going up gaps, climbing up the side of a couch.
Yeah.
It's like, this is stupid.
I'd love to see it. Put it in the movie. Make it a movie of that.
Absolutely. Falling off something you didn't mean to. And it just leads to frustration and tedium. Spidey, though tiny, he's quite nicely animated. Though he does look like a dog wiping his ass when he's crawling across the floor.
He does, yeah.
We've said that about another game as well. There was another one where they did that animation as well, where he was on the crawling across. And
he's going to wear a hole in his Spidey suit right in the ass crack, isn't he?
He really is. And why is there an R2-D2 on the first screen? And Mummy's later on.
Little nod to, yeah.
Thematically, this is all over the shop.
Well, I suppose it's a movie. You're on a movie set, aren't you? So
you're in a movie set. Well, this isn't a movie set. What movie set is this? Shit. Very odd. Not that enthralling. Boring, dull, slow. But slow and just flicking your web precisely, because you can only fire at 45 degrees. So it's like fire your web up at an angle. Oh, I'm too close. Yeah. Turn round, walk back one step, turn round, flick it again. There you go.
Something that's just occurred to me as well. Is that the sum total of Mysterio's powers, confusing people with light switches?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all the dark magic, all the powers that he's got just come down to which light switch is it, Spider-Man? The one on that wall. Oh, you've triggered both of them. It was both. Okay. It's just like, is that it? Is that all you've got?
Well, it's not even that. It's like, you just need to turn the red ones green. Very odd. Not that enthralling. And my comment is that there's nothing to stick to here, I'm afraid.
Very good. Yeah, it's true.
Just rubbish. It's just boring. Really boring. How do you make a Spider-Man games? And because I am just coming because I have been playing through the PS. I transferred it to PS5, but I've been playing through the PS5 ones at the moment. So the first one, then Miles Morales, and then 2. And they're just incredible games. The amount of money that's obviously lots and lots of money and tech, but they're incredible experiences. You go back to this, it's like Spider-Man, takes his time whenever he can. It's like boring. No, not for me. But that title screen's quite nice. The loading screen's nice.
And mappers will probably dig it. You know what? There's mappers out there.
Proper mappers delight this, Yeah,
this one and another one we've got this episode, Mappers Heaven.
Yeah, there you go. That's Spider-Man. So that's not the Narc, man, and the Amazing Spiderman for this part. We're going to go take a quick break. Found a little... Well, I don't know. Did you enjoy Narc? What it was, I guess? I don't know.
I thought it was all right. It's not the worst arcade conversion I've seen. It isn't great, but it's all right. For the C64, it's all right.
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah, that's the better one. We're going to go take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to look at what was going on at the cinema. A lot of films released. Clearly tell the cinema, the multiplexes have arrived by this point. So we're going to go through them. So please do stick with us, unlike Spider-Man. And we are back. Loads of films going on at the cinema. Loads. You could, you were a plethora of choice that you could have gone and seen. Starting 4th of January, so we're into the new year. 4th of January, if you wanted a bit of a spider, carrying on the spider theme, there was Arachnophobia.
There was,
there was. I went to see this. I did actually go see this at cinema. I remember going to see it on my own. A new species of South American killer spider.
With nobody there.
Absolutely, yeah. Two Chinese meals. Nobody's going to get that. American spider hitches a lift to California town in a coffin, starts to breed. It's very poisonous, this spider, and people die. It's got directed by Frank Marshall. This stars, what's his name in it? Jeff. I'll tell you an amusing story about this. Jeff Daniels, yeah?
He does.
Jeff Daniels is in this. Okay. So a few years later at university, in a pub quiz at the university, they asked the question, who is the star of Arachnophobia, right? I said, Jeff Daniels. Okay. When they read the answers out, they said Jeff Fahey.
What?
I know. And when I went up and argued with them, most vehemently, because I'd had a few beers at that point, they were not best pleased, and I was asked to leave the quiz.
Okay, I can't just ask someone if you were wrong. They were wrong. It's not right.
Yeah, it's Jeff Daniels. So I was like, no, it's not. It's Jeff Fahey. I was like, no, it ain't. Jeff Fahey's in Lawnmower Man.
Nothing like Arachnophobia. It ain't got spiders in it.
No, I was not happy, but, oh, well, never mind. One of those things. Anyway, it's directed by Frank Marshall in it. Good film, this. Good film.
It is a good film. Yeah, I watched it reasonably recently, and I didn't actually give it much credit at the time, but I had only watched it that once. So I rewatched it, and it's quite odd, actually, but it is pretty good. It's one of the best spider horror movies that's really for a long time, because there hasn't really been any really good ones. There's silly ones, but this one isn't. I think that what did the damage was the trailer kind of gave it a kind of comedy vibe almost, if you watch the trailer. And it's nothing like that. It actually gets pretty bleak towards the end as well with this thing. You see when they're burning all the mini spiders, and you just see like the flames in the spiders' 8 eyes, and it all gets very dark.
Yeah, it's quite. Did you not like 8-Legged Freaks when that came out?
Yeah, but and instead of it being like giant spider movies, I mean like just a movie about spiders that are poisonous.
This is just poisonous spiders. The nest bit at the end is quite horrible, and the fact he's got spider phobia. He's a scared
exactly.
Spider, so and the only way he has to go down into the nest at the end is
exactly, and it's creepy like that. And the only other film I've seen do spiders that well is actually The Mist, where there's I know they're kind of creepy looking alien spiders, whatever, but the spider sequence in it where they go into the shop and there's the spiders sort of clustering around them and firing their webs at them. It still reminded me of Arachnophobia in that.
Wasn't that directed by Frank Marshall as well?
Darabont, didn't it? Did that?
Oh, was that Frank Darabont? I get my Franks mixed up. Same day, if you didn't fancy that, you could have gone and seen Air America. Mel Gibson, Robert Downey Jr., isn't it?
It is very young looking Robert Downey Jr. in that.
He was.
I watched it at the time. I haven't watched it since, so I couldn't honestly tell if it was any good or not. I don't remember it being bad.
Yeah, and what is it? The corrupt CIA. It reminded me of the Was it based on in any way, shape, or form? It probably wasn't, because I think that was still going on at the time. What was that recent Tom Cruise movie?
No, where he's doing all the drug shipping and all that. Yeah. It does sound like that, doesn't it, actually? Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something to do with that, maybe. If you didn't fancy either of those, you could have gone and seen The Nasty Girl.
Young woman investigates their town's Nazi past. The community turns against her. I think that's in select cinemas, that one.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Same as the one after it, but yeah.
Yeah, The Garden. A nearly wordless visual narrative intercuts two main stories and a couple of minor ones. A Derek Jarman film, a.k.a. Gary would love it.
Yeah, he probably does. He'd probably be sat there frothing about it, but it'll be crap and everyone will hate it except him.
He's watching it right now, in fact.
Yeah, well, it's on permanent rewind. He'd love it. He'll be watching that and Vertical Features remake going, oh, so good, and the Draftsman Contract and all that sort of stuff.
The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, or whatever it is.
I think that's one of his favourite movies, isn't it? I think.
It is.
Yeah, he'll be digging that.
Yeah. Didn't Derek Jarman do Blue, which was an entirely blue screen for 90 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Arty crap.
Yeah, needs giant squids. We always say it. Always say it. 11th of January, Child's Play 2, the sequel to Child's Play. This is more Brad Dourif voiced shenanigans with the evil Chucky doll.
It is.
Is Thingy in this? Is Chris Sarandon in this again?
I wouldn't know, because I watched it many, many years ago, and I made a point of never watching any of them really again. I don't like any of the Child's Play movies, even the current ones, rubbish.
Jenny Agutter's in it.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Dourif's good as Chucky. I'll give him that. Brad Dourif's always a good voice actor.
Yeah, but it's just I don't like the idea of the film. I think they're rubbish.
But obviously these films then, they got their bad reputation, didn't they? And they've recently been remade, haven't they? And they came back.
They have? Yep.
Yeah. The new ones are not bad, I suppose.
They're like the recent Halloween franchises. They're just an excuse to keep effects companies in business.
Yeah.
We need a gag where someone's going to get the head crushed in a vice. Right, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah,
that
true,
kind of thing.
True. And now they can show anything.
Yeah, the Terrifier 3 proves that.
Yeah.
They proved it in tests. It's rubbish. Utter rubbish.
It probably is. Same day, if you didn't fancy that, you could have gone and seen Cyrano de Bergerac.
Yeah. It's not a story I particularly like either. So
no, because this is obviously, we watched Roxanne, didn't we? Recently,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Which was the Steve Martin sort of adaptation of this, but this is the original. Is this the one with, what's his face in? Gerard Depardieu.
It certainly is. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you like it, I suppose all right. Reversal of Fortune was also out same day.
Strange film, that. Strange.
Yeah, this is Klaus von Bülow, isn't it? He gets accused of murdering his wife or something?
Yeah, something like it's got Jeremy Irons in it, I think.
Yeah. There's loads of films. Frankenstein Unbound.
Yeah, it's a Roger Corman film, so you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I do like the write-up for this, though. The ultimate weapon, which was meant to be safe for mankind, produces global side effects, including time slides and disappearances. The scientists behind the project and his car, I like the fact his car's gone, is that from the year 2031 to 1817's Switzerland.
Is that the same film? Is that the right film?
I don't know. It's what you put in there.
I know. I'm just wondering if I've got the right film.
Let me have a look. Yeah, that's on. Yeah, Frankenstein Unbound. Right. There it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Weird.
I think it is. Yeah, because I think he gets zapped back, doesn't he? And
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Who's in it though? Because some people in this one: John Hurt, Raul Julia is Victor Frankenstein.
Okay. Quite good at that.
Nick Brimble was the monster. Bridget Fonda, Jason Patrick, Michael Hutchins.
Goodness me!
I know
Michael Hutchins.
Yeah, he plays Percy Shelley.
Of course he does.
It's a good. Actually, that's quite good casting for Percy Shelley, Michael Hutchins.
Yeah, sounds like a mad old bunch of stuff getting together.
What do you think Roger Corman had on that lot?
I think
because I can't imagine that lot being in a film with a Roger Corman film.
No, depends what he paid him with.
Yeah, weird lot. There you go. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I think I've seen it back when it came out.
I don't watch a lot of Roger Corman films. I posted the late 70s, 80s. So.
Or am I thinking of the other one? I can't remember. Hidden Agenda was also out. This was a Ken Loach film.
Yeah, again, not one I watched particularly. But I wasn't watching a lot of films in the cinema at this point. I was all about pirate videos, I think, around now.
Yeah, true. And Ken Loach I just find a bit much.
Yeah, same. It's not my cup of tea.
No, him and Mike Leigh. There was also The Crossing.
Yeah, early Russell Crowe film, that.
Yeah. Have you seen this?
Well, he's in it. No, but I just recognise these names from the video shop shelves.
Yeah, Sam returns home after a lengthy absence to find his girlfriend is having an affair with his best friend. The two friends end up in a drunken race where the question of who gets the girl will be decided at a train crossing.
How oddly specific.
Why not ask her?
Yeah, it just seems like a lot to go through, doesn't it?
Just say, who would you prefer, instead of making the choice for her?
Exactly. Some of these films will get released, and then they'll be re-released again when another film of Russell Crowe comes out that's popular. So
Yeah, because there's no one else in this. Was this an Australian film?
I believe so.
Probably was. 18th of January. Are you if you're a fan of the Coen brothers, then you might like Miller's Crossing.
It's not my favourite Coen brothers film. It's all right. They get much better than that. It's still pretty good, but it's not as good as things like Fargo or many others.
Yeah, which is the one with Gabriel Byrne, isn't it? I quite like this one, actually.
It's not terrible. It's just not their best.
I think the reason I like this one is it's a bit more straightforward, sort of crime drama thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without trying to be too clever.
Still got their quirkiness about it and stuff. It ain't any No Country for Old Men or anything like that.
I can give or take them. Gabriel Byrne, Albert Finney, John Turturro in it.
Yeah, it's still pretty good though. Dashiell
Hammett is down as one of the writers, as I presume it's based on a Dashiell Hammett story, maybe. I'm guessing so. I do remember quite enjoying it though. It's one of the early Coen brothers, isn't it? Because it was this and Blood Simple.
Yeah, which is good.
It was another one of their early ones. Yeah, I like those two.
I like the Hoodsucker Proxy a lot. It's quite good.
Yeah, Hoodsucker Proxy is good as well. And I like Road to Perdition.
Yeah, that is very good.
Tom Hanks one. That's good. Yeah, that is very good.
Yeah.
If you didn't fancy Miller's Crossing on the 18th of January, then you could have gone seen The Rookie.
Clint Eastwood directed, starred in it. It's strangely in that it's billed as a comedy, but I imagine it's got Clint Eastwood doing the look.
It's Charlie Sheen in it as well. Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen. I don't remember it being a comedy.
That's what it's billed as on IMDb. It says comedy. A veteran detective is assigned a rookie partner after his previous partner is killed by a car theft gang. He's determined to apprehend those responsible for his friend's death, but his new partner isn't really up to the task. We've seen this movie a million times. It's just Clint Eastwood and Sheen doing it, and I imagine maybe it's funny, maybe it's not. Clint Eastwood reacting to Charlie Sheen's silliness with that, eyebrow raising, that stern eye stare that he does.
Yeah, well, it's an 18 rated or R rated.
It's a Clint Eastwood movie.
It's going to be
bound
violent,
to have,
especially from
around
that time. Yeah,
he's
doing things like Sudden Impact and
exactly.
Tightrope. Was it Tightrope?
Tightrope, somewhere around there, yeah, which is grim.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. Anyway, so The Rookie. That's Charlie Sheen. I mean, he's starting to appear in a lot of films, isn't he? Because he was in Navy SEALs. Ooh,
he was.
Navy SEALs. Narrow Margin.
That actually quite intrigued me. That it's a Peter Hyams movie. Now, Peter Hyams can make a good film when he turns his hand to it. So I might actually revisit that one and watch it because the blurb actually made it sound pretty good. I have never seen it.
Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney. Who's in it? Gene Hackman. I have seen this. It's all right. I seem to remember it being okay. It's very much of its time. It's just a bit of a thriller of the time, I think.
Yeah, I'd say it looks pretty good. But Peter Hyams can turn in a good direction, could do a good film when he wants to.
Did he do 2010?
Yes, I believe he did.
Yes. What else?
I quite like that for what it is. Did quite a
2010. Yeah. I'm not knocking 2010. It's all right. It's okay. I'm trying to think what else he did there. He did The Presidio, which sounds like this film. He did Time Cop.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got a few films under his belt.
He also did Sudden Death, though.
Not great, but not terrible.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Peter Hyams, everyone. Then there was Mr. and Mrs. Bridge.
Yeah.
A Merchant Ivory film. As soon as I heard those words, it was like, I'm not going to see this.
No, exactly. Set during World War II. An upper-class family begins to fall apart. Really? Due to the conservative nature of the patriarch and the
progressive values of his children.
Sorry, did you want a cup of tea, dear? Get out! Okay, I'll come back tomorrow.
Okay.
There's the first act.
You Cuthbert, you're drinking that tea without raising your little finger. What you doing? Oh, father, you're so old style.
Close the window, it's getting cold. Oh, it is.
It is. But I like the feel of the breeze on my cheek.
Yeah, that's it. That's every Merchant Ivory film. Well, this is Ivory. I don't know if it's the Merchant part, but it's not the Ivory.
What you're not seeing, listeners, is the searing looks that Graham and I are giving each other across the room.
Exchanging looks. Yeah.
Obviously, we can't. That's not good podcast material.
No, steely-eyed crying, where they just stand staring at each other, and then they're sort of trying to force tears out their eyes.
Absolutely.
As they're watching the flames in the fireplace die down of a winter's eve.
And then the maid walks in and walks back out again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she takes the cups away. Leave them, dear. I'll get them later. Scripts like that take some writing, let me tell you.
the crockery, it needs washing.
Not on crockery. Yeah, anyway.
Mention Ivory films. There you go.
Yeah. A summary.
Beautiful Dreamers. There was that.
Sounds like a drug. I'm into it, so not my thing.
What is it? What was it? Who's in it?
Something about an insane asylum, and I don't know. Dreamers is based on true events, apparently.
It's got Rip Torn in it.
Yeah,
I always thought that was a joke name.
No, it's not.
A weird name, and it rips. I know it's
real.
not, but it just sounds like a, Then there was something called The Unbelievable Truth.
A man returns to his hometown after serving a prison sentence for homicide and finds that the details of the crime have been forgotten and replaced with local legends and rumours. Exciting.
How long was it gone?
Right.
Oh dear. Who made this? I don't know. I've never heard of it. Have you ever heard of it?
Never.
I don't even recognise that cover from the video shops.
No, again, it's an obscure one, that one.
Yeah. What isn't obscure? Well, maybe it is obscure, but I would recommend people go watch this. And this is Miracle Mile. That was also out. Took a while to come out over here, made in 1988, but became a bit of a cult favourite for us.
Yeah, it's got a good soundtrack, primarily, which is what I think perhaps attracts Gary to it, principally, because he loves it.
Is it Tangerine Dream?
Yes, he absolutely is. I mean, I rewatched it fairly recently, actually, having found a new version of it online. It's quite unusual for what it is. It's a bit odd, and it hasn't dated very well, but it's actually pretty good. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the remake of that, as long as they don't leave it to an AI to write the script like they do for almost every movie nowadays. But
yeah. So just to sort of say, if you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to give it away, but the basic premise of this is that there's a guy in a cafe, and he's in a cafe and he receives a phone call and picks it up and he answers it, and it's a guy in a nuclear silo panicking because the missiles they've launched the missiles. Basically, they've launched all the ICBMs at each other, Russia and America. So he's not sure if it's real or a prank or whatever, and it goes from there basically with hysteria and paranoia, and within this confined space of the cafe where everyone's arguing. I think, if I remember rightly, that they don't believe it.
Well, sort of. I think he's meant to be on a date, and I think he falls asleep and misses his date, and so he goes to where he should have been, and she's not there. I think she's gone home, and then I can't remember the details of it now, but the rest of it's principally right. He gets the phone call, then he doesn't quite believe it, and he starts talking to people in the restaurant, and there's a woman in there who's clearly connected to people, and she starts to check into things, and things start to take a bit of a weird twist, and so it's worth watching. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Stars Anthony Edwards, who you may know as Goose from
it is
Top
Goose.
Gun.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. A little cast of unknowns doing its own little thing, but a good soundtrack to that, and it really helps move the film on. So
yeah, he was also in ER as well. Yeah, it is a great film. I think it's really good. I've always liked it. It's just one of those kind of cool cult, small, low budget films. That reminds me of. I put it in the same bracket as something like, it's not the same sort of story, but has the same kind of feel as sort of Overnight New York or something like After Hours.
Yeah, it's got that kind of vibe. It's a bit, it's like, it's just got that kind of vibe, that sort of thing. There's an undercurrent to the city. There's stuff going on. People are trying to get to places, and not everybody wants to do certain things, and it's pretty good. Go and watch it.
Yeah, good. Finally, 25th of January, if you weren't sated, you still had some money left in your pocket in the endless month that was January, you could have gone and seen Postcards from the Edge. Carrie
Fisher wrote that, didn't she?
Yeah, I seem to remember this getting quite a lot of critical buzz at the time.
Yeah, it's got what's her name in it, isn't it? Very famous actress,
Meryl Streep.
That's it. Couldn't think of her name. Meryl Streep's in it. Yeah.
So
apparently it's very good.
Yeah, substance addicted actress tries to look on the bright side when she's forced to move back in with her mother. Carrie Fisher, is it semi-autobiographical, I think?
Yeah, I think it must be. Yeah, she's passed away now, hasn't she? But yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe. If you didn't fancy that, because it felt a bit heavy, then you could have also always gone and seen Rocky V.
Yeah, you would have been very disappointed if you did, though, if you're expecting anything like Rocky IV.
Yeah, I think the thing is, in retrospect, Rocky V is the film it needed this to get to where Rocky Balboa happens.
Yeah, maybe.
It needed to come back down from the stupidity of mid-80s excess.
It needed grounding a bit, and I mean, it's principally, because it's directed by the guy that directed Karate Kid, but it's basically the Karate Kid.
It is very much the Karate Kid, yeah.
So it's all right for it, but it's not great.
It's very odd to see as well, seeing Rocky Balboa do the crane kick at the end. I wasn't expecting that, I have to say.
They pay good money to see that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's I've got a real soft spot for Rocky 3 and 4 because they are daft, and Rocky 5 is quite disappointing and was at the time. It didn't do particularly well for a Rocky movie, but
yeah, I think it's a film that was too early. I think if this with a bit of a different restraint, you've got Rocky Balboa, because Rocky Balboa is the film that.
Yeah,
this is what happened later. This is what happened when he lost all his, because he loses all his money, doesn't he? And goes back to working in the gym because after what happened in Rocky 4. So he just has a small gym, if I remember rightly.
It starts at the beginning. He's in hospital because he's brain damaged and told he can't box again.
Yeah, after the fight with Drago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One more punch, Rocky, and it'll kill you. It'll kill you.
Yeah, so I think that in and of itself, that's what I mean. I think just the market and the way this is in 1991 just isn't ready for that kind of reflective Rocky film. That would have to come later.
No. Yeah,
maybe. Or maybe it's just rubbish.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, you could have gone and seen Havana.
A Sidney Pollack movie. So no, I wouldn't have gone to see that.
Would you not? Not even. It's got Robert Redford in it and Lena Olin.
No, it would just. I wasn't. There was a catchment of films I was watching at this time, and that wasn't it. It wasn't it.
It wasn't, no. But what's this about? A 1950s Cuba, a professional gambler falls for a woman heavily involved in the revolution movement.
Yeah, I'm sure it's amazing. I might rewatch it now with adult eyes, but teenage eyes, I'm like, no, there aren't any boobies in it or murder, so I'm not going to watch
it. It's not for me. It's not for me. You could have gone and seen Catch Fire.
None of these would have made it to the Grimsby area, I had to say. But
no.
Dennis Hopper directed that.
I do remember this. I remember this being in video stores. I remember.
Yeah, it would have done well at that because it had, murder in it and boobies probably. So
yeah, Dennis Hopper, Jodie Foster.
She looks good in that. Although she doesn't at the beginning with crazy hair in the trailer.
Yeah, but the thing is with this is that maybe Dennis Hopper at this point had he done Blue Velvet?
Yeah, he'd done Blue Velvet by now, I think.
Yeah, so I think he'd got a sort of, and this was prior to Speed, isn't it? So he'd got a bit of a, he's a bit of a crazy person,
Yeah, and he's a good director. The few films he's directed have been good. He did one called Red Rock West, I think, which is quite good as well.
Yeah, I think maybe all right, but I don't think I've ever seen it. But I do remember that cover. If you did fancy that, then there was always Maniac Cop 2.
Oh, these stupid films.
You don't like them?
No, I don't like any of the Maniac Cop movies, and there's 4 now, is there? Well, they are what they are. At the time, I probably would have watched it for the gory shit, but looking back on them now, and I've watched loads of these movies over the past 2 or 3 years, loads of them, the old would be called the old slasher movies and stuff, and their sequels, and this isn't a very good one, even by their standards. It was William Lustig who directed that. He did all the Maniac Cop films, and also, oddly, a documentary about Dario Argento's film Opera. So.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? He also did a documentary on the Joe Spinell story.
It was just like that kind of stuff. But Maniac Cop 2 and 3 are all rubbish films. Well, I don't rate them anyway. I mean, people do dig them, but not me.
No, they're not particularly. I'm not a big fan of them, I have to say. They are what they are, aren't they? What's he done? He did Vigilante, Maniac, Hit List.
Yeah, exactly.
Good Lord. Expert. Yeah, who cares? It's just rubbish, early 90s shite. Dad is Dying. Who's Got the Will?
Never heard of it.
Is something else you could have gone seen.
Never heard
who's
of
in this?
Who cares?
Well, Beau Bridges, Keith Carradine, Beverly D'Angelo.
Straight to video.
Yeah. And finally, there was Akira was finally released.
It was.
Interesting film, this. And pretty much one of my sole anime experiences. I did everything. I thought I got everything I needed about anime from this film, and I was like, I'm done.
So did a lot of people, I think.
I'm done. I really enjoyed that, but I don't need any more manga or anime in my life.
No.
And I went forward and never looked back.
Yeah.
Are you a manga or anime fan, Graham?
No. Actually, that's not true. I liked this when it came out. I can't honestly say I really understood it. It's classed as a landmark Japanese animated film directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, adapted from his own manga of the same name, set in the dystopian neon-lit city of Neo-Tokyo in 2019, which I thought was cute. The story delves into themes of power corruption, the consequence of scientific experimentation gone right. It was basically, I remember it being, there was 2 kids on motorbikes who one of them ended up with these weird superpowers, and they was trying to control each other and ended up with the city exploding at one point. Yeah,
and he turns massive. He's got a massive end. One of them keeps shouting, Canada!
Yeah, Canada's one of them, and Tetsuo.
Canada!
I went to see this at the Whitgift Film Theatre, I think with you, actually.
Yeah, we did.
And like you, I absorbed as much manga that night as I'm ever going to absorb. It's never really been something that appeals to me. Now, that's said, I totally understand, because it is amazing to look at of its time, but it's amazing to look at in terms of when you're used to the Disney-fied, Warner Brothers, westernized style of animation. When you see it for the first time in the cinema, it was kind of jaw-dropping, the sort of way it was done.
Yeah.
But it comes at the cost in Western, and I'm making very glib generalizations, but certainly my experience at the time, I'm used to a sort of coherency to films, that I could follow along. It was very difficult to follow because it's at that kind of pace. Yes. Manga is like that. It's wild jumps from plot point to plot point that seemingly make no sense. And you have to connect a lot of dots, and I wasn't ready for it. And I've rewatched it subsequently, but I actually stopped it about halfway through because I just got fed up of people going, "Wah!" all the time. And I was like, I've had enough. Enough of that.
Yeah. And it's not, you can go, you're just stereotyping, but that there is a lot of shouting in this film.
There is.
Obviously, when you're in the cinema, you're going to. I've only ever walked out of a film. I don't think I ever have. So I'd never walk out of a film. But I did enjoy this, and I think visually it's stunning.
Yeah,
and I thought so at the time. But I didn't. I like you. I didn't really have a clue what was going on half the time.
No, it didn't reach me.
No, we had the same experience. I think when we went to see Tetsuo 2, the Iron Man as well, didn't we?
Yeah, same. It just I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, God, this is crazy. But it just doesn't. I can't make connection any further than that. And then later down the line, and I'm sure you vouch for this, when you're teaching video games of any description, you then have to enter a realm of your life that I like to call manga management. Because every game designer wannabe at a certain stage,
they're all animaniacs.
They're all animaniacs. Absolutely. Every character they draw, every idea they come up with, everything is, for a while, it just seems to be manga oriented. I used to call it manga management, and I still stand by it. But that's not to take anything away from Akira, which is a very landmark, like it says, amazing film. It just I never connected with that stuff. I still don't really. So
yeah. And I'm not knocking it, but you like what you like, and I think
people people went crazy for it though, didn't they? With the laser discs and posters, and it was all very emotional and very
And just to say, I know you don't teach it, but I still do teach game design. It's still the power of manga and anime is still. I've had some very, very dubious presentations where they've tried to justify very, very dubious stuff, and you're like, okay, all right,
yeah.
But I said that once to a sort of a year group, and they were like, "Can you define what you mean by dubious?" I was like, "You know what I mean."
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. You've all played X-Blades, right? There you go. Just look at the cover art for X-Blades and tell me that it isn't dubious.
Or Red Ninja.
Yeah, exactly. But come along.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. A lot of films at the cinema. Yeah. We were, obviously, like I said, the age of the multiplex was clearly upon us because they had to fill them with stuff.
And like all bad multiplexes, some of them flickered.
Yeah, probably. Terribly. Yeah. And on that note, we're going to go take a quick break. We'll come back. We've still got 2 games and our usual outro stuff. I don't think there's any crap verts this month. I couldn't find any. But, never mind. We've still got 2 games to come and the charts and what's coming up next month. So please do stick with us. And we're back. We've still got 2 games, and I use that term in the loosest possible sense, to get through in this section. Oh, God, okay. We'll get into the first one, and that one, well, it's Days of Thunder.
It is?
Good old Days of Thunder. Do you know, Graham, it's got 52% in the magazine.
Goodness me, what?
just letting you know, just setting your expectations that that's an average game. 52% says average. So fresh on the heels of the mess that was the film telling us the story of Cole Trickle and his fast car comes the mess that is the game that doesn't tell us about Cole Trickle and his fast car.
Nothing to do with it.
No. Full price of £9.99 is what you'd have had to spend for this. And it was published by Mindscape. The conversion here is by Tiertex.
Oh, goodness
Raise
me.
a glass and have a drink. They also did 1943, which was rubbish. Dynasty Wars, which was brown. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was rubbish. Street Fighter, which was rubbish. Really, and Strider rubbish. 1 and 2, which were both rubbish.
Yeah, this isn't going well so far.
So, we're in very good hands here. Why do they keep getting work?
I don't know.
I don't know. Also, no names attached to this as well. Always a good sign. except for the music, which was by the Ensign Music Corporation.
Random.
And it's perhaps the single, and I'm going to use the word term best thing about this. That's only because it's not terrible. But, it is what it is. I think it's supposed to be a version of the music from the film towards the end, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. At least it's tried. But anyway, I'm going to read you. There's the manual, right? The manual spends more time telling you how to load this game than on the instructions to play it. There's a full page of the manual, which is how to load the C64 version and the Spectrum and the controls. There is one column and a little bit for the game.
Oh, dear.
So the game, and most of this is rubbish. I'm just going to read this. Mindscape brings you true Days of Thunder excitement straight from the incredible Paramount Pictures film. All the fast-paced movie action comes right into your living room on your home computer. Fast-paced. Fast-paced, Graham. Take the wheel in your very own 200 mile per hour plus stock car. As you shift into high gear, you'll watch every other driver slip into your rearview mirror. Or will you? No, because you haven't got a rearview mirror. Test your driving skill and see if you have a chance to bring home Daytona. Isn't Daytona a track? I don't know. Give everything you've got and go for the championship. Gibberish. In order to take part in a race, you must face a few laps. Just a few. We don't know how many because we don't know how many is programmed into the game. A few laps on an empty track to get a qualifying grid position. Nothing says excitement like an empty track in a C64 game. As you go from track to track, your ultimate aim is to be good enough to get a shot at the last race of the season at Daytona, the championship race. Good luck. That's it. Then there's some stuff about the pit stop, which I'll talk about in a bit. Then there's the driving hints. I'm going to tell you about the driving hints, Graham. Good drivers don't hit other cars. Winners don't do drugs. So try and overtake your opponents without too much damage. After all, it'll probably be you who loses out most, because that's how we programmed it. Each track requires its own distinct driving style to win. That's a lie. An utter lie. Learn the correct gear and speed required to keep your racing line on the banked curves. The key to success is a good qualifying position, so give it all you've got and go for pole.
Okay.
The game starts. I'll give it this. It's got a nice loading screen. Got some nice cars racing.
All right,
pretty well drawn and shaded. It looks quite nice. Title screen, though, when it does load, bare bones. Bare bones. Logo of the film, some copyright info. Always exciting. Show me the copyright info. Show me the copyright info. Pressing fire starts us off. And so at this point, we get a top-down view of the track. And there's a little black dot moving around it. Little black dot.
There is.
That's you, that is. That little black dot. That's you. Because it's time to qualify for the big race at Daytona. This first race is at Daytona. I thought the whole instruction said if we're good enough, we can get to Daytona.
Yeah, something's gone wrong.
I don't know. The UI is also present here at the bottom for the main game. It's showing on the left, there's a 4-speed gears box, sort of in a H formation. Then there's a mile per hour gauge. No numbers on it, though. So who knows how fast you're going. Then there's an RPM gauge. Again, no numbers on it.
What's the point?
There is no point. Then there's a lap marker, a diagram of your car with wheels and engine, then the lap time and your best lap time. All right. So stuff to look at. Pressing fire here takes us into the game. So the first thing we see is a pointless side-on view of the track as blocky buildings scroll past in the background. So you got this kind of
so stupid.
It's basically this building in the background. There's a stripy wall which is moving along, and you know, kind of simulating as if it's moving, but no cars. You don't see a car at this point. Because then it just cuts really quickly to the more standard 3D behind the car view, except still can't see your car. This takes up the top 3/4 of the screen, the UI's at the bottom. There's some bands of blue at the top for the sky, I guess. Every now and again when you go around a corner, some clouds may float past. There's a striped black and grey wall, as I said, on the right of the track, a plain grey road, and there's some green for the oval centre on the left. So that's it. No road markings. Just the only sense of speed we get is that grey wall, that stripy wall. Moving past us. That's it. We are already moving. I think we're supposed to be, because this is, it's a hot lap. So we're coming into the first of the qualifying laps. It's a hot lap. And then your car, a small green thing will come on from the bottom. So it goes, from the bottom. And I guess it's a car. And we take control. The aim here in qualifying is to get the fastest lap to place well in the full race. So controls are up to go faster, down to brake, left and right to steer. You can change gear by holding up and pressing fire, that moves up through the gears, and you hold down and press fire to move down through the gears. Stupid. I never understand why they do it like this. Fire to accelerate, up to go up a gear, down to go down the gears. That's more obvious. Don't give me have to do two things when one of them already does something. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. And, let go of the fire button to brake.
Yeah.
And change down your gears.
Wouldn't it?
It would be. It really would. Anyway, in this qualifying, you've got 2 laps to do. Not the, as it says in the instructions, a few laps. 2. 2 is not a few.
2 laps.
It's a couple. A few is more than a couple.
True.
In my parlance, anyway. So you have to do that before you can get into the race proper. And then, that's what you do. So you do a couple of laps, see how fast you get, then you get the thing. Once the race starts, you get that same aerial view of the track. But this time, there are lots of black dots on it, moving around, all in a formation, because they're all sort of waiting stack to go. One of them's sort of highlighted, so you can see where you are in the pack and where you're not actually told where you've qualified.
No.
The game just starts and you've got to well, which one's flashing? Oh, I'm in 6th. I'm in 14th. You're told then you get told, there's 14. This race is 14 laps. And my heart sank at this point. I was like, 14?
No, tell me about it.
And we cut to the race at this point. We're going down straight, turning left when you need to. It's NASCAR, all right?
Yep.
You only turn left.
Yep, one direction.
One direction. So invariably, as they go around the laps, you'll wear out the left tyres or the right tyres probably because you'll hit the bank. You'll wear out the tyres either way. They change colour, kind of like pit stop 2 sort of type thing.
Yeah.
And so on that little sort of diagram at the bottom, your tyres will change colour. They go to purple and to yellow, I think, and then they explode. And you also got a fuel gauge as well. I forgot to mention that, and that will go down. So when as this goes down, you need to replace your tyres. You need to go in the pits. The other cars never have to go in the pits. No. So you're automatically at a disadvantage. It's awkward to get into the pits as well. It's not easy. You have to basically, over the finish line, as you're coming towards the finish line, it'll say at the bottom, approaching the pits. Okay. And then in front of and behind the finish line, there's like a section of the road which is black. You can't stop your car. You have to just slow down as much as you can and sort of get into the pits and be right over to the left. And then you may get access to the pits, or you may just drive through. I think I got into the pits 1 out of every 3 times I tried.
Same.
So I had a 33% success rate of getting into the pits.
Yeah, rubbish.
Anyway, if you do make it into the pits, this actual bit is graphically okay. You get a top-down view of your car. This is actually quite good to look at. It kind of comes on. It's there. You got some icons on the left. But I don't like the way that this is done because you've got 2 icons at the top, which are tilt your car to the left and tilt your car to the right. So if you tilt it to the right, then you can change the left tires. You then have to tilt it to the left to put on the right tires. This just seems like a overcomplication.
Yeah, it is.
Just let me put tires on. I just want to put tires on, fill it up with gas. Okay. To fill it up with gas, your car has to be flat. So it can't be tilted either way. So you have to be flat. Then you can put gas in it as well. And you can also fix the engine. And it took me ages because at the bottom is the go button. But my car was tilted and it won't let you go until your car's flat. And then you press to go and then you're back into the race. Okay.
Exactly.
But that's it. So as you're racing, there are 14 other cars on the track or 16, whatever. You need to avoid other cars and try and come first. Too much damage. So to hit too many cars, it'll make you explode. So when you do explode, the view switches to that side-on view of the track to show your car spinning round. I guess it's to show it happening for a stunning effect. Stunning, Graham, a stunning effect.
Oh, stunning.
And then you get an image of your mashed up car. That made me laugh. But it's blurry and blue. And then it says, at least you could try and finish the race. You're blown up. A bit of sympathy would be nice. If you do finish the race, you get a message depending on how you did. And if it's either, well, you could have done better or well done, you can finish first or whatever. You proceed to the next race at Phoenix. You carry on. You get points. There's a chart of points. So you're in like a league. So you proceed to the next race at Phoenix. And the Phoenix is a brown inner oval. And it's a bigger oval as well, which you're racing round. But on the aerial view, it's still green.
It is.
So they haven't bothered. They've changed the shape of the track, just not bothered to change the colours. So once you get into the race, then it's brown. It's like, okay, it's a different track, but it's still just turning left. And if you're not doing better, you get threatened with being kicked off the team, and you have to do some training laps, and you have to come in within a certain time. And if you manage it, and you get to go to the next one, who cares? Who cares at this point? I couldn't take any more of this terminally boring turn left racing game. I was just bored, and the controls are so finicky and awkward. Trying to change down a gear will just slow you up so fast. You're like, and then other cars go, and you're trying to speed up, but
rubbish.
It's just so awkward. It's rubbish. Then it's a theme for this week for me. This is another really dull game, dull and shit. there are plenty of people in the world that love NASCAR, right? It's not my cup of tea. However, I can, if I was in Middle America where a lot of this happens, I can see the appeal. The noise, the spectacle, the speed and the volume and everyone cheering and they're having a good day out and getting T-shirts fired at you out of guns and all that kind of stuff that you see. I imagine it's a great day out. The NASCAR, I imagine, is kind of secondary to it because you're just, there's just cars going past.
Absolutely.
But probably have a good day out with a few beers and the family and all that kind of stuff. That's great. Not knocking NASCAR, whatever. I imagine, if I could go to America and go to a NASCAR race, I'd be like, wow, this is crazy. But I'd probably love it. Here, though, in C64 land, none of that can be replicated.
No.
None. So what you have is a boring game that may have a little bit of nice sprite scaling on some of the trackside objects, okay? The stripy right wall moves at a pace. Hey, it's so dull to play. None of that matters. None of it.
No,
Who thought?
Doesn't.
Oh, good Lord. I don't know. Was this like Talladega? Do you remember Talladega? Was that? I think that was a NASCAR game as well. And that was shit too. Crap film leads to a crap and ultimately boring game. Who could have seen that coming? Well, everyone probably. But full price too. Full price. £9.99 for this. Rubbish and dull and boring and just turning left. Oh, yeah. I turned it off.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Not going to add much more to that. In a world of Turbo Outrun and others,
exactly.
Why have they presented us with this?
Power Drift. Power Drift does this and better.
Okay, there's that kind of 3D-ish effect. This is very much like the NES and Game Boy version, so it looks like another NES to C64 variation, although the NES one's better, I have to say.
Yeah, it will be.
But otherwise, this is really boring, really dull, horrible to control, ugly to look at. Days of Blunder is what I called it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Days of Blunder. Yeah, just awful. Just what a pointless,
utterly rubbish
thing.
It's devoid of anything remotely interesting. I mean, and thinking NASCAR, and certainly in the Daytona races, I think they go around that track about 800 times or something. I wasn't prepared to go around it more than once. That was enough. After it said 14, I'm like, no, you have no chance. Because even if you try and overtake the cars, they've got stupid car logic. They're not trying to win. They're just trying to make sure you don't.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I hate that with these stupid games. So I know Days of Blunder, end of line.
And there we go. Rubbish. Pointless. Don't play this. Even if you're playing along with the podcast, just don't waste your time on this.
Don't waste your time. No, you won't be happy.
No, you won't. You won't be happy if you saw the film. You won't be happy if you played the game. Just ignore everything about it.
Your call will trickle.
Yeah. Awful bag of shite. Let's move along. We've still got one game left for January 1991. And Graham, it's over to you to round off the month to tell us all about the happy time that is Magicland Dizzy.
£2.99, I suppose.
Yeah.
83%, which is quite a high score, isn't it? This.
Yeah.
Published by Codemasters, of course it's Codemasters. This was coded by Ian Gray. He's coded loads of Dizzy games, but he's a bit of an old stalwart, Mr. Gray. He did Tales of the Arabian Nights. Do you remember that?
I do.
And he did a game called Spooked. He's done loads of games, actually. Some of his games go right back to the 83. And there's even games that are coded recently as well. So obviously he's still doing it. Still got it. Graphics are by Chris Graham. He did all the Dizzies, but he also did Rockstar 8 by Hamster and also Neil Adamson. Yeah. He didn't do the graphics of Neil Adamson. Neil Adamson also did the graphics for this game. And that includes all the Dizzy games. Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. Do you remember that? That was all blue. So blue. Blue. The music's by Steve Barrett. The annoying music is by Steve Barrett. Okay, it's a Dizzy game. The story so far. The evil wizard Zax is back. Like all evil wizards, he has made certain arrangements against his premature demise. He has exacted a terrible revenge by transporting the Yoke folk to a strange fairy tale world and casting evil spells on them to imprison them there forever. Dizzy must free the 6 Yoke folk by breaking the spells and then destroying Zax once and for all before he can return home. Therein lies your story. This game features Theodore the Good Wizard, Pogie the Fluffle. Pogie the Fluffle.
The Fluffer.
Not saying nothing. Dora, Daisy, the evil wizard Zax, Denzel, Dizzy, and Grand Dizzy. Oh, Grand Dizzy. And it says, just in case you don't know what this all means, Dylan has been tangled up in a bush, rooted to the spot. So this is where they are in the game. Oh, Denzel has been frozen inside a block of ice, Zax's latest ornament for his ice palace. Dozy is lying on an altar in Sleepy Hollow in a magical sleep from which he may never awake. Dora is in the haunted swamp, turned into a frog. Daisy has been super enlarged, and imprisoned in Zax's oubliette, which she is now too big to escape from, and Grand Dizzy is trapped in the strange world on the other side of Zax's magic mirror. Now, this game design is... yeah, exactly. Now, this game design was obviously Neil Vincent and the Oliver twins, famously, isn't it? It's an Oliver twins thing, all of this egg talk. And they've made a lot of money and a lot of Dizzy games in the years, haven't they? Let's be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this one fare? Well, okay, it starts off in a bright cartoon-like loading screen, I would say. Very childlike and Spectrum-esque, of course. Its heart really has always been in the Spectrum, hasn't it, for the Dizzy games?
Very much so, yeah.
But its details, and I suppose it's very much, as the French would say, dans le royaume de l'œuf, or as the Italians would say, nel regno dell'uovo. It's in the realm of the egg. That's what that means.
I was going to ask you what the hell you're on about.
Yeah, so that's where this game lies. It's the egg realm. This is a game all about eggs and the adventures they can have or can't have. So the title screen will see you with a very child-friendly image of Dizzy, stood next to a dubious stereotype coming out of a genie lamp, but what the hey, it's a silly Dizzy game, isn't it? Suitably busy title screen after that with lots of Dizzy stuff. I played the cartridge version of this, which seemed odd, but I did. There was also a disc version. I don't know if it was a multi-load of any description already. I don't know, and I don't care. I just thought it would load the Dizzy quicker. Anyway, suitably busy title screen, like I say. Lots of Dizzy stuff going on. So you've got little Dizzies all over the place. The whole family of Dizzies are on there. The evil wizard is on there, and little title screen. The whole family's there. The old egg family, all looking very happy with themselves, have to be said, considering they've been trapped in another realm, which you think they wouldn't be so happy about. The graphic style, of course, remains Spectrum-like. It's very much like that. It's very colourful. And I suppose what you could say is it's quite well realised in high-res for what it is. Mm-hmm. Nothing says fun like a high-res egg, which is a good T-shirt for somebody. The game itself plays out in a game window in the middle. I expect that's to keep the frame rate reasonable, I suppose, or maybe just because that's the bit of the Spectrum bit that all they could be bothered to convert. At the top of the screen, when you start the game, you've got a UI, which is about an egg high. And it says a Dizzy 4, strangely enough. And then it says the name of the place that you're at, number of eggs that you have remaining, and your energy bar. So you start the game, I think you start at Wizard Henge or Weird Henge, I seem to recall. And then you've got you've got the character of Dizzy in the middle. He's facing front, and you control him with the joystick left, right, jump and tumble and all the other stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute. But principally, that's the game, really, in an eggshell. So around that is kind of
more of this.
Loads. around that square in the center is, of course, the rest of the Dizzy sort of UI. Look, this is principally what this game is. I mean, if you either like Dizzy games or you don't. Similar to what you said about Narc, actually. People love them, people don't. No, if you like it, you do. This one is kind of more classic Dizzy, because we've seen a few Dizzy games that were kind of eggy off spins, weren't they, really?
Yeah, so, they were off yoke.
So they were off center, yeah. They were. They were more egg-shaped, I suppose. So this one is more classic Dizzy. And the sequel to Dizzy Fantasy World, which was never reviewed in Zap. So is this, am I right in thinking that some of these Dizzy games either weren't reviewed or some didn't get released on the C64? I think there's gaps. I don't know. Maybe there isn't. Maybe they filled the gaps. I don't know. So it's more of the same. You play the titular, eggular Dizzy, the UK's best described acrobatic egg, I think, on a quest to rescue his eggy friends and find some stuff that's been dotted about the Spectrum-like graphic screens. I cannot say what it's a flick screen game, and you move Dizzy with the joystick, jumping and tumbling and interacting with objects with a press of a button. Some objects will create dialogue boxes, which you will move the story on a pace, or you'll pick stuff up or not pick stuff up. But at its heart, this is another flick screen, walk or tumble and seek game. Walk around, jump over stuff, pick stuff up, move it around, use it in the right places, and so on. I have to say the game functions pretty well. There's no bugs that I saw, really. It controls like a Dizzy game, and the graphics look exactly like they should, lifted from a Spectrum. So for what they are, in that respect, they are all right. They're eggy high res. Not terrible, not great, not my cup of tea, but they're not. They're actually, because they're high res, they've got a kind of a nice defined quality to them. They're a monocolor, but they're well shaded and well realised for what they are. Okay, I'll give it that. The music is a tweediddly affair that grates pretty quickly, though. So you're going to get tired of the music in it, no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But if you like mapping, if you like exploring and tumbling around in the shape of an egg, then you probably played some of the other Dizzy games by now, and this one will probably be an eggy welcome addition to the other eggy bunch. New players might like it. Maybe lots to explore. There's quite a lot of screens in this. Nice, like I say, to look at. Maybe this simple appeal in walking around in the shape of an egg, solving relatively simplistic puzzles. I don't know. Some people like that, though. I found the game a little soulless and a little bit funless. The initial levels are sparse, and of course, they include the obligatory massive drop, which I think every Dizzy game I've played has had one of these, where there's a well or something and you drop down and you end up dead. So it has the obligatory egg fall down a well yoke. Anyway, which I think is a bit irritating to have in every Dizzy game. And this is the thing with these Dizzy games. They irritate me very quickly. There's loads of things that will kill you if you fall on them, fall in them, touch them and everything else. You'll find this out by trial and error, which is principally how these games manifest. Most of their mechanics are based around a trial and error system. And you'll learn where to fall, where not to fall. You'll manage the tumbly, roly-poly type nature of the game. If you're into that and you like it and you're willing to put up with it, fine. I never got on with any of the Dizzy games particularly. Not my kind of egg. But I do appreciate there are yoke that do.
Oh, God.
So
really go off someone.
Gone off egg. Nobody wants one of them. So maybe some of the ideas in this game were poached from the other Dizzy games. Pardon the pun.
Oh, Jesus.
But this isn't my kind of omelette, but maybe it is someone else's. I don't know. I felt like it lacked, maybe it's me, and maybe it's late in the day for these kind of games, because they are nice. They're nice games. There's fun, nice games where you're exploring stuff. And maybe 1987, this game would have been really great with some of the other games around this time. But I don't know, in 1981, where I've just spent time, busting drug lords in Narc and wandering around aimlessly in Spider-Man, I wasn't ready for another wander around game. It's better than Spider-Man, but that's not say. But it's in the realm of the Dizzy. It's another good Dizzy game if you like them. But I find them irritating. I can't really explain why that is, but I think it's just these kind of games have badly lost their appeal for me by now. I'm looking for more sophistication. I'm on the Amiga playing games on that ilk now, and they're getting more sophisticated. And these simplified walk and seek and flip screen games, well, they maybe, like I said, for 1987. Might have been all right, but for 1991, nah, come on. But it is budget, so what about you?
Yeah, left me a bit scrambled.
Exactly.
And so on and so forth. Yeah, after fast food and quick snacks, where Dizzy's back in his more normal form, isn't he? And I'm just far less interested in this game. I've enjoyed fast food and quick snacks way more than I did this. So, walking egg, check. Spectrum-style visuals, check. Annoying spinny jump, check. Millions of flick screens, check. It's Dizzy. It's Dizzy. It's back. We're back to Dizzy. If you like these kind of games, it's going to rock your world. It's going to egg you up. Like you, I've never particularly liked them. I find them tedious, meandering about. I find the reward for all my hard work, it's never enough. The reward is never. And some people get reward just for the exploration, but I want some kind of reward, and it's just not enough. So what's to say? There's very little to say about it. It's more Dizzy. It's another traditional Dizzy game. It's not for me, but I'm sure the mappers and egg lovers will, they'll lap this up. Because it is. Just to sort of tell you, by the way, there are 10 games with Dizzy on the C64. Dizzy Treasure Island, which I think we've looked at. Fantasy World, which came out in 1990. It did come out, not in Zapped though. There's Magicland. Next up in 91 was Panic Dizzy and Dizzy Spellbound, which I don't think get reviewed in Zapped, so we won't be looking at them. Then we've got, there's 4 more. Hang on a moment. There are 4 more. Then there's Bubble Dizzy, which is in Zapped. Dizzy Crystal Kingdom, which is not. Dizzy Down the Rapids, and then Dizzy Prince of the Yoke Folk, which are both in Zapped. So we've got 3 more Dizzy games.
Right, okay. Well, they're all going to be principally the same, I suppose.
I imagine so, but there you go. That's the Dizzy. 10 games on the platform with Dizzy in. Well, 12 if you count fast food and quick snacks.
That's a lot of pancakes.
That's a lot of egg.
It is. Well, you know what? Maybe they've had eggnog. They've probably got all the eggs covered. All the types of eggs Benedict. Eggs, all the egg dishes are all in there, aren't they? All done.
I always thought that was Dirk's brother.
I like eggs Benedict. It's good.
Yeah, what's in an eggs Benedict? I've never had one.
So it's a English muffin with ham, poached egg, and hollandaise sauce.
That's right. Yes, I did.
It's probably another ingredient I'm missing, but that's it.
It's always like on Come Down With Me, 4 in a Bed, where someone always has to have the poached egg at breakfast.
Oh, that's me. I love a poached egg.
Just to be awkward. It's just to be awkward.
They're easy to make poached eggs.
Yeah, but they get them wrong half the time. It's always like, I'll have a poached egg, please.
Yeah, and it's like, it's the yolk is too hard to say. It's like, come on.
It's just an egg. Egg in water. Eggy water. Anyway, there you go. That's our games for this week. That's not a good bunch of games. Well, Narc.
No, it's not.
It's a good conversion, but you like them on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Narc was it's okay in that bunch, head and shoulders above the rest, and that's not saying much, is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there is enjoyment to be had in Narc if you like Narc, I suppose, because it's Narc, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But Amazing Spider-Man is boring.
Not amazing. It's not amazing.
No, Days of Thunder has no thunder.
Days of Blunder.
And I don't think there's any magic in Magicland Dizzy.
No, it's long since lost its egginess, that one.
It is. So there you go. That's January 1991 done. There were a number of budget releases that were covered in the magazine this month, sorry. There was Silkworm for $2.99. That's a good buy.
That's pretty good. That's good.
The Real Ghostbusters for $2.99.
It's probably better for that price, but it's certainly better than Ghostbusters Pooh.
Yeah, it was. Operation Wolf for £3.
It's all right. It's all right for £3.
That's all right for £3. R-Type for £3.
That's another one's good.
That's a good bargain. Target Renegade for £3.
Yeah, another one.
That's another good one. Xenon.
Yeah, it was all right.
It was all right. And Afterburner.
For £3, you at least you're not feeling as ripped off.
No, you won't. No, that's true. As I said, unfortunately, no crapverts this month. Sorry, I just couldn't find any. All the adverts were
it doesn't happen every time.
No, they were of an acceptable quality.
Yeah, we had a bumper crop at the end of last year, didn't we? At the end of 1990, so
we did, yes, and they were good as well. So let's have a look at the chart from CMVG. Countdown from 10. At number 10, up to number 10 from 14 is Road Blasters.
Budget re-release.
Yeah, Bigfoot is in at number 9.
Okay. Is that a budget game?
It's on the Kicks label, so yeah, it will be, but God knows where from. Down to number 8 from 3 is Guardian Angel.
Never heard of it.
No, I don't know what that is. Quattro Combat from Codemasters is down to 7.
Okay.
Run the Gauntlet is down to number 6. Okay. In at number 5 on the Hit Squad is Rastan.
Right.
Target Renegade in at number 4 on the Hit Squad on the budget re-release. Quattro Super Hits from Codemasters up to number 3. Up to number 2 is Quattro Adventures, I guess, from Codemasters. But in at number 1 on the budget label is Outrun.
Figures. It would be.
Yeah. Countdown to 20. 11 is Paperboy. Quattro Arcade is at number 12. Tracksuit Manager. That's good that's a budget football. That's good. Football Manager. 13. Salamander down to 14. Fantasy Dizzy. There you go. Speak of the Fantasy Devil. It's down at 15. Quattro Sports at 16. Jaws is at number 17.
Weird.
California Games is at 18. Straight in on the Kicks label. That's all right at budget, isn't it? It's pretty good. Hong Kong Fooey down to number 19 from number 2. That's quite a drop. And Soccer Double is at number 20.
I like the sound of that. So out of those 20 games, is that all but one are budget?
Is there anything what's not?
EJ is the Soccer Double. Is that a budget game, is it?
Maybe not. Jaws alternative. That might be a
that might be full price, but that's crazy, isn't it? That's most of the chart is old games.
Yeah, that's
Sign of the times.
That's exactly what we're selling. So all these big new games that we're looking at and seeing, we ain't seeing in the charts. Where's Midnight Resistance?
Anyway. Yeah, exactly. So the charts get a bit woolly at this point because they're probably not really tracking the C64 sales now. Not many places will be selling them as well, so I think we have to take this charts with a little bit of a pinch of salt, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. We had no Creatures, no Midnight Resistance.
No.
None of the big games from last month, from the end of the year. But I mean, if you had a C64, and the other thing as well is that you'd probably, at this point, most of the C64s, I would think, unless for, not all, but maybe a quite high limit, would probably being passed down to younger siblings who probably only had a few quid pocket money or something.
They were still enraged by when they got Amazing Spiderman or Days of Thunder at full price.
Well, they wouldn't be buying that. They'd be buying Target Renegade for £3.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they'd be getting. So there you go. So that's it. That's it for this month. So for next month, so another episode, 3-episode special, February 91.
Okay.
Just to sort of keep us sane. We've got some big games. There's a first gold medal of the year, Turrican 2.
Okay.
Night Shift, whatever that is. Shadow of the Beast.
Goodness.
Super Kid, Vindicators, The Curse of Ra, Stun Runner, which I don't think is going to be very good. I remember Stun Runner in the arcade being quite the looker. UN Squadron, whatever that is. Cyberball.
Okay.
It's going to be speed. I bet that's a Speedball ripoff.
Yeah, it sounds like.
E-SWAT.
Okay.
Who knows? Skating USA.
Right.
The alternative Beach Boys track, I guess. Ed the Duck.
Oh no.
And something called Summer Camp.
Okay.
A game of Summer Camp.
It sounds enthralling.
Sounds very exciting, doesn't it? That's it. So that's what we've got coming up next month. Hopefully, we'll see. Turrican 2 gold medal, 96%. That could be good. No other sizzlers or anything, though. That's just one big game. See how that turns out.
No.
So that's it. That's the first month of 1991 out of the way.
It is.
Which is always good. Graham, you got anything you'd like to say on your experience of January 1991?
No, global disappointment. I'm glad it's over with, actually, because there's been very little highlights in it. So it's a bit hit and miss, isn't it? Some big releases from Ocean. They're actually on a better trajectory in 1991 than they have been prior to that, I have to say. But we've still got some of these utterly rubbish games coming out, and that's the tragedy, really.
Yeah.
Beggars belief that something like Spider-Man, that they can't even get that right.
They got it very, very wrong. Slow to man. That's it then. So I think we'll sort of end there. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to The Amazing Spider-Man. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zapped 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zapped 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.